Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 98 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask 4 great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien. That's me, and let me introduce our special guest for today, Anthony Staz Stazicker is going to be answering some questions today. Staz, welcome aboard the Talk4 podcast, man. Just please say hi to the fine people listening and kind of give us the 30 to 60 second-ish rundown of who you are and what you do, and then we're going to dig into a few questions, man.
Hey, Louis. First of all, thank you for having me on board. I really appreciate the opportunity. You mentioned in the introduction there, quick fire. For those that probably haven't heard of me before, I do like to waffle quite a bit, so I will try and keep it short and succinct and to the point as well, mate. But yeah, I'm Anthony Stazicker, but better known as Staz. I'm almost 40 years old, currently living on the south coast of England in Bournemouth. I spent the majority of my life, my formative years, in the UK military. I did 3 years in the Royal Marines and then 10 years in the UK Special Forces and Special Boat Service. Before that, I had a promising football career, which didn't work out due to injury. Had a bit of tragedy as a young kid, lost my mum at a young age, 11. I kind of moved from locations, was born and raised in Wigan, then moved to Mansfield, Nottinghamshire, and then joined the military at 21. And I've sort of traveled around the world, met everybody twice, and ended up on the south coast of England. I've currently live down here with my amazing wife, Ruby, and I've got three boys total. I've got Lucas, who's my eldest, who's 12, Albie, who's 7, and little Huey, who is 2.5. I left the military in 2018 and co-founded a technical outdoor clothing company called Thru Dark, THRUDARK, and we specialize in everything kind of outdoors. So technical, think everything from a bespoke summit suit to climb the tallest mountains in the world, like Everest, all the way down to sort of fitness training clothing as well, down jackets, technical outerwear, waterproof jackets, trousers, all that kind of stuff in between. And yeah, we've been going now for about 5.5, 6 years.
Nice. I mean, yeah, I was going to say, Thru Dark, I see people in my local gym using the stuff, so it's clearly an unbelievable brand, and it's just gone so well over the last few years. I can't wait to ask about it. But obviously, so to start with, let's go for the most important question. Staz, the nickname, was that in the military? When did that stick? When did Staz stick? That sounds quite good. When did that happen for you?
Yeah, I like that. It's, I mean, ordinarily with most things like the military or team sports, very quickly you get assigned a nickname. Some of them are welcomed, some of them aren't. Mine's fairly straightforward, and it's sort of passed down through the generations. And it's just the short thing of my surname, Staz, S-T-A-Z, Stazicker is the surname. So it's as simple as that, really. And I've been called sort of Staz. My granddad was called Staz, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of passed down. And my brother as well, my older brother, is also called Staz, which can be confusing at times when we're all in the same room.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, it's a cool one. If you're a naval aviator, I think you'd have a good call sign there to go by as well. But okay, so question one. Well, technically two now, but we're gonna call it question one. What we'd like to do on the show here really is kind of dig into a bit of backstory to start with, and then kind of work our way into the career and stuff. So backstory then, man. So what led you down the military path initially? What was the motive there? And kind of just walk us through your training and a bit of your career going into the military to start us off.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's take it right back, I guess, to the initial question, the why. I think for me, I sort of touched on it in my short introduction there. I guess all the way kind of growing up, I was never super academic. I wasn't academically gifted. I also didn't sort of flick my switches, being at school. That said, I enjoyed the social element, but I also enjoyed the sport element as well. So moving through or navigating my way through school, sort of primary and secondary school, everything for me was, or my main focus, should I say, was all predominantly revolving around sport and football in particular. Well, I actually started as rugby up in Wigan. I moved to Nottingham, and then it was football. So from there, I started to sort of pick up football quite well. I was sort of playing at a high level. I was representing, first and foremost, the school. I was the captain, then it was the county team, then it was England schoolboys, then it was being affiliated with various professional football clubs. And I think I ended up at Fulham right at a pivotal age, sort of 16, 17, where, we're looking at professional, or YTS, as they were known back then, contracts. So youth sort of scholarship programs, and et cetera, et cetera. Also at that time, alongside, I also used to love motocross bikes. That was a bit of a passion as well. So in the off season of playing, right at the height of my kind of football career, I remember leaving Fulham. I've been training sort of the best I've ever trained. I'd slotted in really well into the team, into the position. I was representing England. Everything was going great. I'm being told by everybody externally, you're going to be a professional footballer, etc., etc. And I had personally and mentally put all those eggs into that basket. I left for the sort of end of the season and was given the kind of strict instruction of look after yourselves, keep fit, keep active, eat well, sleep well, and recover, and make sure you're in a good position to start when you come back after the break. Obviously, don't play football and do not get injured, and for me personally, I sort of took that and was like, at that age as well, you feel indestructible. I'd never had any serious injuries. I'd always been fine. I'd kind of, every time I'd fallen, I'd bounced with no real issues. I'd never broken a bone. And I went out on my motocross bike with some friends to a local track, and just a simple corner, put my leg out and my foot got stuck in a rut, and I dislocated and badly damaged my right knee. I just remember at the time thinking, shit, this isn't good. It doesn't feel right. Sort of hobbled back to the bike, back to the paddock, put the bike back in, straight back home, and sort of having that moment. And my knee was obviously swollen up. It needed putting back in, etc., etc. And at this stage, I maybe got about 3 weeks left before I returned back to Fulham. And I'm icing it. I'm doing all the usual stuff. I'm now pretty much not doing anything to keep fit. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was the knee. I went straight back and then went to see the physio. Asked me what I did. I said, look, I was playing football with friends and just had a bit of a bad tackle and injured my leg. They then actually put me through rehab. I had an MRI. Sorry, I had an MRI scan, which then indicated that I needed surgery. They said I had all the surgery done privately, then had the rehab, got really well looked after. And I remember the first game back that I played, pretty much the first tackle that I got involved with, my knee went again. And I knew, I was like, this isn't good. I remember sort of hitting the floor in frustration and anger at myself, really, and the situation that I'd ultimately sort of ended up in. All those kind of years of training up to that point, and all the dedication and everything else that had gone into that moment, and that being at that such a finite sort of time in my life, knowing how important that next sort of stage was in terms of being potentially offered a professional contract or a scholarship. I knew it had just slipped through my fingers, and that was where the frustration was born, because I knew it was my fault. Actually, I was released from there. I had surgery, I was rehabbed, and I started playing back in Mansfield for sort of semi-professionally. And then at that stage, it was a kind of a readjust and okay, well, what do I want to do? Okay, let's get involved with further education, college. So I enrolled onto a BTEC National Diploma in Sports Science at West Nottinghamshire College. Got involved with there. The knee starts rehabbing, feeling a bit better, but it's never 100%. It's still not 100% to this day. But I started playing football again. I started playing for the college team. Obviously, I've come from a high level from sort of those kind of professional affiliated clubs. And then I start representing the British colleges. So all of the colleges, in Britain, I'm now playing for British colleges. We were out in America with the British colleges playing football, and against the American All-Star team. I think we beat them about 9 or 10-0. And I remember at the sides of the field, there were just, a lot of scouts from different universities. And at the end of the game, you just get flooded. And they were just throwing cards at all of the guys from the team, and I had a fistful of scholarship opportunities and cards passed to me. And at that stage, it was like, well, I'd never considered university, but actually, I'm not bothered about the academic or the university, but what a life experience this would be. So I accepted a full scholarship to the University of South Carolina. And I'll try and cut this short.
Nice.
Basically, I filled out some amateur eligibility forms incorrectly. They deemed me to be a professional because I was affiliated with professional teams. I'd been paid to play. I'd been given contracts, et cetera, royalties, et cetera. So right at the last minute, I had my flights booked over there. I knew I was going to be living with, et cetera, accepted everything, and it didn't work out. So again, I'm now sort of 17, 18. I'm sort of thinking, fuck, Jesus, it's just not meant to be. This isn't working out. I would have to have waited 1 year before reapplying. But at that kind of age, a year seems like a lifetime away. So I was a bit disgruntled, kind of went off the rails a little bit, started drinking, going out loads, and then was looking for a job. I started working in a local council run gym as a gym instructor. Obviously I liked fitness. That was a big part of my life at that stage. Started working in a gym, personal training, did that for a couple of years. And at that stage, I started reading for, I guess, pleasure, things that interested me. And at the same time, 9/11 happened,
Mhm.
and Iraq and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of that stuff was coming through the mainstream media. I could see the Royal Marines out in Iraq and the Second Gulf War. And I started reading more into military history, and also then into specific units, and the Royal Marines and the Parachute Regiment in particular. After a couple of years in the gym, I just sort of thought to myself, is this it? Is this what I want to do? And that's not to knock gym instructors, but I just felt like I don't know, all these opportunities and these things. I just felt like I had so much more to give
Yeah.
personally, and I don't know where that came from or what was driving that. I had nobody in my immediate family that was in the military that was sort of suggesting the military route. I guess I was just reading the Andy McNab books and all this kind of stuff, and planted my own seed and then watered it myself as well. So I then went down to a local armed forces career office in Nottingham, walked through the doors, and was greeted by a rather large guy. And he was wearing a coveted Royal Marines beret. He was in the Royal Marines, and I sort of said, "Look, I want to join either the Marines or the Paras. If I'm going to do this, I want to join the most elite, sort of most reputable military unit." And it was one of those two for me. He pushed me down the Royal Marine route, so I started looking into that in more details. I think sort of once I'd had that goal or that something to aim towards, I then fixed on that, and then I started doing all the things I needed to do in terms of fitness and preparation and all that sort of stuff. I went down to the Commando Training Centre, Royal Marines in Lympstone, and did a potential Royal Marines course for a week, passed all that, and then was given a date to start, and that was April 2005. That was 32 weeks of arduous military training. And at the end of that 32 weeks training, I sort of started day one, finished on week 32 as an original. So, I had no injuries, wasn't back trooped, all this kind of stuff. I was awarded the King's Badge for the sort of top recruit, and also the PT medal for being the fittest guy in the troop. And
Nice.
also, more importantly, during that 32 weeks training period, what I'd kind of worked out is that actually this was where I felt most at home and most comfortable, and the opportunities and everything else that it was about to present me, looking back now, were incredible for me personally, and really sort of set me up for success. Off the back end of the Royal Marines training, I was then posted to Taunton, 40 Commando Royal Marines. I joined the Bravo Company with the likes of Ant Middleton, Foxy was in the same unit, Louis Tinsley, the co-founder from Thru Dark, and a few other people that had kind of followed me through that sort of career path as well. So I spent probably 3 years in the Royal Marines. I had one operational deployment to Kabul, Afghanistan in 2006. I came back from that and enrolled onto the Royal Marines sniper course, arguably probably the most difficult infantry course that you can do. Such a high sort of attrition and failure rate on there, but it's also the biggest test of your soldiering ability and skills to be a sniper. It is highly regarded within all the units, and the Royal Marines, again, their sniper course in particular is very, very well highly regarded across the whole world. But always, as I was doing this, I was still sort of thinking, "God, is there more? Is there more?" And actually, on that first tour in 2006, I had my first introduction to UK Special Forces. I was stood on the gate, and this kind of car pulled in. It was a soft-skin vehicle, a local vehicle, and we were sort of managing ingress, egress of people coming in and out of the camp. That was one of the jobs there that I was doing, one of the roles. And out jumped sort of four British guys, long hair, beard, flannel shirts, different rigs, different weapon systems, different radios, and just fucking looked super cool. And I kind of knew what Special Forces was, but I'd never seen them sort of in the flesh. So that was my sort of first introduction. And for me, that really, really sort of lit a fire in my belly. And I thought, how do I become one of those guys? What do I need to do? So I started really looking into it. And I guess for me, what I'm trying to say is I used the sniper course as my own benchmark to say, am I fit enough to sort of enroll onto this course, but more importantly, do I have the necessary infantry soldiering skills and abilities and map reading and weapon handling and everything else that goes with that to set me up for success for the UK Special Forces selection. So at the end of that course, the Royal Marine Sniper course, I then enrolled straight onto the Joint UK Special Forces selection. That was in 2008. And didn't know much about the course, only from things that I'd read. And like most things in life, the only things that most of the information that I was getting back was from people that had ironically fucking failed the course, and that's something to talk about and touch on as well in terms of who you listen to and why, and are they credible, and what do you allow into your sort of brain, to allow your own sort of thought processes. So from there, I sort of, I'm very broadly brushing through some very hard, difficult, challenging times in my life in terms of training and sniper courses. And then UK Special Forces selection within itself is a very, very testing environment. It's the hardest thing I've done, physically and mentally. That being said, business is its own stressor in terms of the mental stress and load. But at the time, Special Forces, that selection period was brutal, absolutely brutal to me, physically and mentally. But I passed once again as an original. There's a lot of people that go onto the course that are injured that get loaded back on. And in fact, I think out of 240 people that applied for or turned up on day one of the 6 to 9 month course, there were 6 to 7 of us that passed for the special boat service, and I was one of the only guys. I sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet. Hopefully, it doesn't come across like that. But I was the only person that it was my first attempt, and I'm saying that just to give context as to how difficult a course that is. And if we add context to that again and say that everybody that turns up for UK Special Forces selection are very physically fit and robust. They've already passed an aptitude for that as well, a week or 2 weeks running around with the respective units, making sure that they are prepped. And these guys, are credible soldiers. And the majority of UKSF is made up by Royal Marines and Parachute Regiment guys. So just to give a little bit more kind of context and validity to hopefully what I'm trying to say there. So that was me then, thinking, I've passed selection, and it's fucking snakes and ladders. Life is full of snakes and ladders, isn't it? You're at the top, then you join the Sabre Squadron, and then you realize just why selection is designed the way that it is, and why it is so difficult, because you then hit the big snake, slide back down. You're the new guy, irrespective of how long you've done in the Marines or what rank you were, you lose all that and you start again as a UK Special Forces operator, and then the learning curve is just steep. And I spent 10 years, all my most formative years, in Special Forces, deployed on multiple combat operations. It was probably the busiest operational time that we've ever seen in our history. And I don't want to say that I was lucky, because because of the context of where we were and exactly what war is. It's not glamorous, but I certainly felt lucky at the time in terms of the operations and the tempo and everything else that I was involved with throughout that time. And also during that 10-year tenure, I did so many different courses and interesting things as well, and met some incredible people.
Damn, man, that's one hell of a story. And so something that kind of springs to mind out of that, then I think there's probably a lesson to be learned for people listening here too, and it's quite important to get this message across here. So I feel like you and I actually have a slightly similar backstory. Obviously, I didn't go down the military route or anything, but I was involved very heavily in tennis from 4 to about, well, when 2020 came about. So I was doing fantastically, and I was going into my last year of junior tennis. That's about turning 18. Then COVID hits, lockdown, and I'm losing out to my last year of junior tennis. I was top 400 in the world, preparing to go to junior Wimbledon, and then it's all out. And then my sponsors and stuff, they've got financial investments in different things, gets whitewashed by COVID, they have to pull back, funding's gone. And then it's like, what am I going to kind of do now? And then I've sort of went my own route. But what I want to kind of just ask you then, so in terms of like me and stuff, I know this happens with a lot of athletes and people like that, but when they kind of have that opportunity kind of stripped away from them via injury, via, just misfortune or something, because obviously, that's the thing. You can't I won't be able to break my leg doing a podcast now and be screwed for my career, which is a nice feeling. But I look back on that now with no regret, and I see that career and those missed opportunities as just rungs on the ladder in a personal journey and a personal growth. Just wondering, do you have any kind of regrets about all of that too, or do you kind of see it in the same way where it's like it was all part of a mission to get to where you are now?
That's a good question. I think for me personally, I don't live with regret. I'm always focused that way, and I'm pointing that way. It's forwards. That's the only way that I ever kind of work and think. I'm generally a very positive person. Now, that's not to say that in the moment, in the initial moment, of hearing or having something terrible happen to you, yeah, clearly there's a moment of you go through, and your brain processes so many thoughts, doesn't it, in the first kind of 5 to 10 seconds, and everything sort of spins around and spirals. But it's important that you are conscious and cognizant of your thoughts and how you allow that to sort of project into everything that you do. So I don't regret anything, and I'm not hopefully not sort of standing here saying that I would be expected to have been playing in the last World Cup for England. I'm not sort of saying that at all. But everything happens, and it's also this everything happens for a reason. But I think it's always about positive action. I fucking hate this right now. I think there's a lot of people that want to be a victim. It's almost encouraged actively through society, and everybody's looking. If you frame your mind like that, and you wake up in the morning, you swing your legs out of bed and you want to be a victim, or you play the victim, everything's fucking bad news, isn't it? Oh, it's fucking raining today. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh, my fucking coffee's cold. Oh, that's not worked out. Oh, that guy's a dick. Or this isn't. If you constantly approach each and every situation with a negative viewpoint, then you're going to get negativity back, and I just think people need to be really careful of their own thoughts, more importantly, and how they think about each situation, and look for the opportunity in every sort of situation and circumstances. And that's good and bad as well, But I'm saying that with caveated with the fact that we're all fucking human. We all have bad days, but don't let a bad day turn into a bad year. You know.
Course, absolutely. Yeah, no, everything you said there, Matt, I feel like that's spot on. No, we definitely need to stop doing that. And I think maybe it's like a little bit of ego in people too that kind of holds on to this set persona of what they think they should be, but instead of kind of being adaptable. And I think that's where I'm at now. I'm really happy with how things have gone. I just find that in some ways, like the sports stuff, those lessons have translated into what I'm doing now. Like it's all part of a growth and a development thing. But so obviously, sniper, what was it that appealed to you about that then? So how come, like, what was your drive or motivation to be a sniper? I mean, you probably know, Craig Harrison. I had him on the show a couple of days ago. His podcast episode's going out now, and kind of asked him the same question. What was the appeal there? And his answer was, I like to be a sneaky bastard. So have you got something there? You got a good reason?
I don't like to be a sneaky bastard. That's a good answer. I think for me, sort of touched on it briefly before. I was using the course as a prerequisite or a stepping stone, and as also almost like a check balance for me to see where I was at with regards to my soldiering ability before I was going to load myself onto UK Special Forces selection. It's arguably, or it is, the hardest infantry course that you can do in the military. But that said, I did really enjoy the stalking elements of being a sniper and being autonomous, but also part of a group and being part of something bigger and having that responsibility on your own, or as working as a pair. Snipers have a devastating effect on the battlefield, and anybody that's been, involved or around or even had it the other way, coming the wrong way back towards you, it has a devastating effect on morale. It can stop whole brigades moving and advancing forward. And so the strategic effect of a sniper is brilliant, and I love that. I love being a force multiplier. I love the thought of having that ability on the battlefield to really shape and change an enemy to your advantage. But mainly for me at the time, it was look, it's a prestigious course. To be a sniper, you get the sniper. You get the badges on your uniform, etc., etc. And it's highly regarded. Anybody that was in a sniper or in a recce troop within, both units, the parachute regiment or the Marines, were very, very highly regarded because they know that you've hit a certain benchmark, you've hit a certain standard of ability to pass that course, and you have to earn that. You can't buy that. And it's the same with your Green Beret, and the same with passing Royal Marines or Special Forces selection. These are things that you can't buy. It's something that you have to absolutely earn. And with that comes that element of respect and trust moving forward. So for me personally, it was more to allow me to move on to Special Forces.
Nice one. Well, yeah, like we said, it's all about the journey and that process and stuff. So, I mean, what's clear and apt, obviously, here from looking at what you do now, especially from part of that story and that journey, is that you've clearly got a secret sauce for success and doing well and overachieving. So, let's get into some actionable stuff then. So, question 2 is obviously your success in the military has translated clearly into the business world as a very successful entrepreneur. Your book's just come out as well. Well done there, dude. Can you talk us through, some of the principles and lessons that you learned in your military career that you feel have maybe shaped your success in life now that you would abide by, every day, go day in, day out?
Well, it's absolutely brilliant that you should bring this question up, Louis, because this is all covered in my new book, The Hard Road Will Take You Home. So I'm not going to give away all of the golden nuggets because they are, the book is filled with this. And this is the reason why I wrote the book. For me personally, it was about how have I applied personally things that I've learned, not just in the military, but in my personal life and adversity and all this kind of stuff. And I've wrapped it all up into a book with the help of a very talented ghostwriter, Matt Allen, who kind of extrapolated all this information from me. And we spent hours, talking like this over Zoom about things that I'd learned and situations that I'd been in and how I'd kind of managed to find success or solutions to problems, and for me the book is filled with that. It's filled with actionable points after each chapter. I've got a life story, a military story, and now a business story as well, and it's all about how we can apply these across different touch points in your life, and that's not to say that you only buy this or need this book if you're an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur. It's not. It's got other kind of hacks in there as well about being the better, sort of the better version of yourself, from relationship and all sorts as well, and how you first and foremost look after yourself, because ultimately, you are the most important person, selfishly or not. I think that's correct in your life, because how can we expect to look after anybody else until we aren't, looked after ourselves? So there's so much, mate, to dive into, Louis, in terms of, I can't give you a quick answer on that in terms of what's applicable and action points. It's all covered, throughout my book, which is available obviously on Amazon and everything else. But I guess for me, what I'm trying to do is summarize some sort of easier points, and I've kind of done it there with that brief description. But I've been very fortunate, in my short time on this earth. I'm 40 this month, but I feel like I've been afforded some very unique experiences. I've met and worked with some incredible people, very talented people, from leadership roles, from business. I've just surrounded myself with very, very good, adept, intelligent, people. And I think it's sometimes too easy to take the credit for yourself. And there are certain times when you absolutely should receive credit for yourself, when things that you've done yourself personally, and and it's important to recognize your hard work and your commitment. There is no secret sauce. This is what we talk about this so much, on different podcasts, and it's the kind of the elixir, isn't it, that people want? This, tell me how you get so fit. Tell me how you pass Special Forces. Tell me how you started a successful business with Louis and stuff. And there's no fucking secret sauce. And the reality is, right now in this current state that we live in, nobody cares how the sausage is made. They just want to eat the fucking sausage. And ultimately, people don't want the fucking hard truth. People look at you and they'll go, it's all right for you, isn't it? It's all right for you because you're fit. It's like, fuck Jesus, man. Like the amount of time, energy, and effort that, that I put into training, to keeping myself fit and active and healthy, that's not an accident, and the same thing applies through your whole life. It's not an accident that you end up being successful. If you apply all the things that you've learned along the way, utilize the good, drop the fucking bad. And if you really internalize your life and your situation right now, if you were brutally honest with yourself, you know what is good and you know what is bad. You know what you should keep and you know what you should drop. And it's about having the confidence to do that and have difficult conversations with yourself, first and foremost, but also the people that are around you. It's people don't want the confrontation, first and foremost with themselves, and then they don't want the confrontation with other people. So what happens to most people is they end up in this weird space where they're just almost floating through life and existence. And if you don't have plans for yourself, or you don't aim high and have something to achieve, you end up being part of somebody else's dream, or you end up doing something else that somebody else wants you to do. Whereas you have to have the fucking confidence, the competence, and the realization to stop and go, that's not what I've got fucking planned for me. What I want to do is this. And okay, now what I need to do is, now I've aimed high and I've got something to go for and a goal. Well, let's fucking work back from that, And there's things that you can apply from the military in terms of planning. And, we spent our whole lives sort of planning to the nth degree in terms of missions and how do we break down a complex, difficult task, to its more simplest form. And how do we come up with different courses of action, which, for most problems we would have solutions, and within that solution pot we would have 3 different solutions, and then it's up to everybody in the room to sort of all trust, verify, and agree on the correct course of action to take. And I'm kind of going into little bits here, but for me the most part is it's having the awareness of yourself to realize that everything is within you to make a change, and unless you're willing to do that, then I can't help you. A fucking book won't help you. A stoic quote won't help you. A motivational video won't help you. But there are things that you can do, in terms of being consistent and having a plan and sticking to it and applying. For me, I'll take the example of the gym. Obviously fitness has been a big part of my life because it had to be. I couldn't have achieved the things I wanted to achieve unless I had a base level or a very good high level of fitness. And that started in school, in football. I started realizing very quickly, shit, if I want to play at a high level, I need to be very fit, and then that transitioned into the military. Oh shit, if I want to pass this course, this arduous, physically demanding course, I need to be very fit. Same goes for special forces. And then you also start going, shit, it's not just about me anymore, because the emphasis and the onus just isn't on me personally. And I have the personal pride to keep myself maintained and keep fit. And it's big boys rules when you're in special forces. Nobody's prodding you with a fucking stick and saying, hey, you need to go to the gym. It's like, no, I've got professional pride here, because I know that if I'm not fit, best case, fucking I get shot and killed. Worst case, I'm not fit, can't make the draw, and one of my teammates gets killed, and I know that's an extreme example that most people can't register why, well, that doesn't apply to me. I work in a fucking bank, but if you apply all of those things, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you try and be the best version that you can be at anything that you do, give yourself a goal to aim towards, work back from that, look at different courses of action, and then go for it and apply. And you're going to have to make fucking sacrifices. But the reality is most people don't want to fucking sacrifice.
True. Very, very true. And well, let's put it this way. I think this kind of ties into something I did kind of want to ask as well then. So last couple of weeks, when I saw the title of your book, that's really stuck in my head. And I mean, I'm not saying that to butter you up or anything, or just to promote it, but it has got stuck in my head. I'm thinking about that quote all the time. There's something I find very appealing about it. The hard road will take you home. And I've thought about that so much recently, like in the gym, the hard road, the work, that's what's taking me to what I would consider the freedom of having like the ideal body and the ideal physique and stuff, which is my home in freedom. in a sense. But I just wanted to get it, you know, from you, the man behind the book. What does that mean? Where did you hear this? Is it your quote? Did you get it from somewhere? Is it a special forces thing? Because I feel like you've sort of just summarized that and kind of scrunched it into a ball and almost kind of given us that in your answer just now. So yeah, just walk us through the meaning of that just very briefly, and where'd you get it from?
Yeah, it's a good question, Louis, and it sort of, excuse me, it sort of ties in to sort of my previous rant as well. So it's not my quote; it's something that I heard in Royal Marines training. I was kind of about 22 weeks of the 32 weeks into the training, so sort of a good chunk into the training, and we were just leaving for summer leave. So we're due to have a 2 to 3 week leave period before going back and starting it, you know, back at that week period. Anyway, we're all on the bottom field. The bottom field is where you do all the kind of outdoor stuff that you might have seen associated to the Royal Marines. In the training centre, it's just got a Tarzan assault course across the whole bottom field. It's got the tank, the water, cold water submersion stuff. It's all this stuff that you'd associate with, you know, military, running around with webbing on, weapon, doing fireman's carries through the muddy fields, and, you know, doing the zip wires, all that kind of stuff. Now, we had the whole of the unit, so everybody that was in training at that time were all on the bottom field. We'd all had a bit of a beasting. It was an end of, you know, or beginning of summer, you know, end of that term, beasting by the PTIs, the physical training instructors, and each troop was sort of against the other troops, and we were doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Now, at the end of that, it culminated in a speech, and we're all sort of sat down in our respective troops, and we kind of look up towards the grassy knoll where the kind of the big wigs and the officers and everybody would stand. And we knew we were going to be addressed by an important figure. Now, we didn't know who it was at the time, and I obviously do know now who that person was. But, you know, we can sort of see at the top, there's quite a few people gathering. There's crowns, there's pips, there's officers, there's don't really know who's who. And sort of nestled between them was a kind of a tall, imposing character, quite wiry but broad shoulders, and, you know, South African guy. And he sort of walks out and addresses everybody. Now, there must be maybe 200-300 people, you know, on this bottom field, and you could hear a fucking pin drop, you know, and his voice just boomed across the whole field. And, you know, I'm shortening the speech and ad-libbing here slightly, but it was along the context of, you know, men, right now, where you currently are is exactly where you should be. You know, you have taken, you know, this opportunity, you know, not by chance, but by decision. You are here because you want to be here. This is fucking difficult. What you are embarking on is difficult, but at the end of this difficulty lies something that can't be bought. It's a Royal Marine coveted green beret. You know, you are joining a part of something that is very special, better than where you currently are now. You know, and he sort of said right at the end of the speech, he said, whenever you feel like you're not enough, or you're not worthy, or you're having a fucking bad day, or you feel like quitting, you know, or you feel like you want to take the easy option, you want to cut a corner, you think nobody's watching, he finished the speech with, just remember, the hard road will take you home. And the fucking hairs on the back of my neck just stood up. And that's it. He sort of finished the speech, and everybody you could literally hear a pin drop. And it was just like, wow, what a fucking speech that was. And he was actually a commanding officer of the Special Boat Service, had an incredible career within UK Special Forces. So the words weren't just delivered by anybody or somebody that you just sort of didn't respect. It was like, wow, you know, this guy is everything you would want to aspire to be in an individual, you know, and he didn't just demand respect, it was earned. You know, he'd earned that respect through the doing, and it was validated. So that really stuck with me. And throughout then my military career in the basic Royal Marines, then on to Special Forces, and since that day, I've always kind of used that that mantra. Whenever I feel like, to your point earlier in the gym, nobody's here. I often train here on my own and nobody's watching. Do I have to do 10 reps? Nobody will know if I do 8, and nobody will know if I cut this session short. Nobody will know if I don't go on that run, or I don't do this training session. I wake up in the morning, my body's fucking hurting and screaming, and that little chimp brain saying, you don't need to do it. What's one little session? Don't train. But if you always revert back to that as a benchmark of, look, just fucking remember why you're doing this, and don't cut corners, don't take the easy option, the hard road will take you home. So that was the premise and the backstory towards the title of the book.
Strong. I love that. Yeah, it's interesting how much, I mean, you see these quotes nowadays, and some people just go, they go long with their quotes, but actually something short like that has so much impactful meaning. That, for me, that really has so much just impact. Like I said, it's been running around my head for a few days now, and I just keep thinking about it when the going's getting tough. So I appreciate getting to have seen that and the benefits it's providing already. But okay, so we've gone through the military stuff. Let's talk about Thru Dark then. I'm really excited to hear about this because, there's people at my gym who use the kit, and I've seen the brand. I know the stuff that you guys make is just top of the tree, tip of the spear in terms of quality. So tell me how you and Louis came to, great name, by the way, just want to say. Tell me how you guys came to co-found Thru Dark then. It's such a great brand. How did it all start and obviously progress to become as big as it is today?
Yeah, so in 2017, 2018, I was coming towards the end of my time, and there's a couple of different reasons why I decided to leave, special forces, given that, I was a sergeant, I was flying in my career in terms of progression. I was doing really well. I'd been sort of decorated. I'd done multiple combat tours, and everything was kind of working really well in terms of a progression and a career within special forces. And, I'm 13 years into a military career. I had another maybe 9 years to push for my full sort of 22 years pensionable endpoint. But for me personally, I'd ticked so many boxes, so many close shaves. It devastated, had a really bad effect on my first marriage. I just met my now wife, Ruby, 2 years into that relationship. And towards the end of my career, I was now working in a training role. I was the chief sniper instructor for the unit. So anything from small arms, from pistol to close quarter combat, all that kind of stuff, to long range shooting, obviously, as well. That was kind of my gig, my role, my job, responsibility within the service. I then went back into a squadron as an operations senior, and I was kind of moving further and further away from the pointy stuff, the end stuff that I really enjoyed, the knuckle dragging, the door kicking, and the operational tempo was changing as well. And at the time, I was parachuting out in America, just requalifying, just getting jumps after jumps. We were in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, really, and I was at a local Starbucks with Louis, the other co-founder. We've been mates all the way through since we both were in the same unit in 40 Commando, Bravo Company. And, we were working together, but never like together in the same sort of squadrons, but we were kind of mirrored at the same time, both in the service, etc., etc. And Louis, unfortunately, was medically discharged from the military. So he had an injury, which meant that he could no longer carry on in the job. So his situation was slightly different, but we started talking. I said, look, the wind's out of my sails. I've ticked all the boxes I wanted to tick. I feel like I've done everything I want to do. I'm ready to turn the page. What could we do if we sort of left, special forces? And now the natural transition for most people with our skill sets and our background is to move into a kind of a very well paid role within close protection and security. And we did that. We worked specific jobs when we initially left the military, just to fund our own lives and also the business. And we pumped all of our savings into Thru Dark in the initial stages with a founding investor. But that's not what we wanted to do. It's something that was very comfortable. We could have done that. We had enough contacts on the outside. We worked for, we did the Super Bowls, we did the NBA, we did all this stuff that was great because, that background of special forces, and there's lots of jobs and opportunities out there to be had. But that's not something that really interested us. It was something that we could do if we needed to do it. So that was more of a need than a want. So we started, and within our time in special forces, you are absolutely afforded the best kit and equipment in the world, from weapons to optics, everything that you're given. The budgets are completely different. You're a development group, you're out, and you know, and clothing in particular. We'd operated and thrived in some of the world's most inhospitable places, everything from the jungle to clearly the desert, and the cold environment, the Arctic. We'd operated and thrived in these areas, but also we'd always been quite critical of how clothing was performing and how we could make it better. And a sniper, for example, you're highly regarded as a bit of a kit pest. You're constantly tinkering and changing your own kit and equipment to make it more fit for purpose. There's not many people out there designing clothing to be crawling through gorse bushes, etc., etc. So making it functional but durable, and making sure the pockets are placed in the right way, and all this kind of stuff. So we had a lot of experience between me and Louis. So, and look, naively as well, we were like, look, what do we want to do? Well, let's start out a technical outdoor clothing company. We love the outdoors. We love being outside. We've got a lot of credibility, a lot of authentic sort of credibility and knowledge in terms of where we've been and what clothing should perform like, and what we wanted it to look like as well. We were kind of like, it needs to be super technical, but also there's nothing that, with our background, nobody's left sort of special forces, put all of our years of hard-earned kind of knowledge and background into specialist clothing, and nothing also looks different as well. It all kind of looks the same. The outdoor clothing market, everything just fucking looks the same, and it's bright, and you could literally pull the logo off one jacket and replace it with another, and you wouldn't fucking know. So we wanted it to have its own unique sort of look and feel, and again, but always underpinned by the authenticity and the credibility of me and Louis, as the co-founders, with our background and credibility. So we left in 2018, and like I said, with a bit of naivety of how hard could this be, and we could just apply everything because look, we're special forces and we can do anything. And let's fast forward 6 years. Yes, the company is in an amazing position right now, and it's grown incredibly well in such a short period. In a very, very challenging and difficult environment, in terms of the outdoor market. But yeah, I think what sets us apart, what makes us different, I think that we design, develop, and test all of the clothing ourselves. People see that, they get behind that in terms of the social media profiles and bits and pieces. We've had a lot of help and support through friends and ambassadors, and we've had a great team around us supporting as well. As we stand here today, we've got about 35 full-time staff and a lot of agency help and work and support as well. We're just about to be moving over to a new location, and the company is growing really well, and that's down to the people. Much like special forces, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I have, I'm very acutely aware of how important the right people are within your business, be that military, be that actual business on the outdoors. So I'm condensing a very long, hard, painful business process that me and Louis have been through, and I guess we've probably had the best business degree that anybody could have. It's been practical, it's been informative. We've been surrounded by incredibly bright and intelligent people that we've kind of attached ourselves to, and listened. I guess you've got two ears and one mouth. We've listened, we've adapted, but that said, we've always been quite confident in terms of what we wanted the brand to be and say, and how it's how it was an aspirational brand, and but also we've stuck quite true to, it's funny, we look back at our original whiteboard of Thru Dark that me and Louis did in my front room back in the day, of what Thru Dark was, what it stands for, and all the usual SWOT analysis, all this kind of stuff, and where we saw ourselves in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And actually, it's pretty much bang on the money in terms of, even looking back now, in terms of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to grow and scale. And I think having that sort of foresight to write things down and to physically see something on a wall, to give you a goal to aim towards, there's actually something quite powerful in that. And so where are we right now? Like I said, we're 35 staff. We're just about to move, places again. We ship internationally. We've got, loads of a massive variety of product on the website, and it's growing and growing, and it's exciting as well. And again, we're still very, very actively involved on a day-to-day basis in the business. Myself and Louis are off to Scotland next week, to go and do some more climbing, winter ice climbing, test the current range, test some new exciting products that are coming out as well.
That's brilliant. I mean, you guys have done so well. It's so impressive. So I'm curious then, what do you think has contributed the most to this growth? Because, business people and stuff that I've spoken to before, they say stuff like, you can have the best product. It's obvious you guys have got the best quality. You can have the best quality and the best quality products and stuff, but it's nothing without like effective marketing. It's nothing if people aren't seeing it and stuff. So what do you think has like been the, I don't know, what's the right word here? What has been like the thing that has got
Biggest
it from
catalyst.
a catalyst? Yeah, exactly. So what has been like the catalyst for taking it from a small business to so big? Is it the ambassadors? Is it the quality of the clothing? Is it the social media? And what has it been that's just blown this thing up to as big as it is?
It's a combination of all, probably all, and an addition of other things as well of what you've just mentioned. It is product first and foremost. It doesn't matter how well you market something. You can, you know, I've got a turd in front of me. You can cover it in glitter; it's still a turd. And people will see straight through that. So product first and foremost. And also authenticity, story. A lot of businesses out there now, I look straight to the story. Who is it? Who are these people? And what do they know about what they're doing and what they're selling? If and if you look at this, it takes something like a phone, like your Apple, your Apple phone. It's a fucking fantastic product, isn't it? It's an amazing product. But at the same time, everything that they pump around it, their marketing, and they listen to everybody else, and they make it desirable. They've made it different to all the others out there. They're always leading and pushing forward ahead, and they're not following trends. They're not following other people, and oftentimes, and that's double edged as well. You could counter that and say, well, look at fucking, was it Nokia or BlackBerry? They were like, no, we're not changing to it. No, not doing the touchscreen. No, and then they fucking collapse. So there's being smart and then there's being just fucking stubborn and stupid. So it's a combination of everything, but it's people, mate. For me, the main thing is people, who you choose to bring in to your fold, from investors to very important, pivotal hiring and key hiring and positions within the business are super important. And it all takes time. A lot of the times you've got to have the mental fortitude to just keep pushing ahead and pushing forward if you know that it's working and you know that it can always improve. And I think for us as individuals, me, and not really speaking for Louis, but me personally, we've always had that Kaizen approach, always wanting to be better, always changing and always adapting. And in businesses, it's not too dissimilar to the military in terms of the problems that you face. Clearly, you don't have bullets flying at you, but you have problems flying at you daily. And sometimes it's small arms fire, and then sometimes it's machine guns or it's bombs, and it's big problems, that require big solutions and big brains to come up with different solutions for problems. But for us, it's been a combination. We've had a lot of help from friends and ambassadors and social media and the way that you can communicate and target and activate on different things now. It's such a big combination, and data, and now the team's growing, and it's almost like a snowball effect, isn't it? The bigger the company becomes and the more successful it is, the better people that you can get around you and the better advice and the more specialized people that you can get in. But I think it's just sticking true to what your goal and what your dream is, and not trying to switch and change too much. It's about, like I said, the product being fit for purpose, and but staying credible and authentic to the story and to who you are.
Great points there. Yeah, really, really good. Okay, so last question, still on the same subject then. So obviously that's the Thru Dark stuff, and obviously very applicable to other people. But in terms of like advice for entrepreneurs, business owners and stuff, then what do you think are some of the things that business owners and other entrepreneurs can take away from this podcast, but also learn from the Thru Dark story as well, and possibly utilizing their own ventures? One thing I'd like to get you maybe to start with on that subject is maybe you could just guide us through the vision and that whiteboard. Like, what was it that you guys wrote down there, and how would you go about making something like that for another business to have a vision for the future?
Again, this is all, there's not one blanket approach or one stroke of the brush um, that will be applicable for everybody. I'm going to revert back to my book again, Louis. I've covered a lot of stuff, all the points that we raised there in terms of business and things that have worked for us might not necessarily work for you. And it's not one of those things where read the book and use everything within there and every action point and you'll be successful. It's like, well, actually some of it might not be applicable or might not be, might not work for you. So it's about taking the right things, dropping the stuff that doesn't, and applying everything else as well. But it all comes down to action for me. And it's listen, the amount of times that I've sat next to people who've, I've got a fucking great idea, and an idea for this, they're fucking brilliant. Unless you putting pen to paper is one thing, but actually actioning something is different. Talking about, I've said it before, talking about the thing isn't doing the thing. Thinking about the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling your fucking friends and your family about the thing isn't doing the thing. You have to do the thing. And then you learn and you adapt and you grow, or you don't. And it's difficult. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is fucking difficult, and it's not for everybody. It's very, very challenging and demanding across relationships and personally and professionally. Very difficult. You have to have difficult conversations. You have to be a good leader, a good listener, an effective communicator. And there's so much that goes into it, and the majority of that is hopefully covered in my book. But that's not to sort of throw it back and not give you an answer, but the answer is in there. There is nothing that you can just go, look, I think it's this and that, and you'll be successful. It's not that easy. It's very nuanced, very difficult, very complex, and we'd need about 5 to 6 days to talk through everything, I think.
That's cool, man. I think we've got a lot of great stuff to get after on here. And I think, yeah, like you said, that book is a must read 100%. So man, that's the 4 questions for today. Before we wrap it up, let's shameless plug away then. So Staz, where can we find the book? Social media, Thru Dark, any promotions and stuff, send the people where you want them to go and have a look at stuff.
Yeah, so we'll obviously start with Thru Dark, so THRUDARK, Thru Dark, all one word, and you can find us as a Google search. We've got an online store, no physical stores of yet, so everything's direct to consumer. We've got the usual social media handles as well across all the, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. There's quite a lot of stuff actually on YouTube about our backstory and behind the scenes stuff as well. So check that stuff out. Give you a little bit more detail about who we are and what we're doing and where we're heading. And then obviously myself personally, Staz Thru Dark, STAZ, and then Thru Dark, all one word across my socials. And the book, The Hard Road Will Take You Home. It is available Amazon and all this kind of stuff. Actually, a point to note: so the hard copy is out, but the Audible version as well is kind of cool because after not every chapter, but most chapters, I'm joined by a special guest, and we sort of dissect and break down each chapter. About 20 minutes long. It's kind of like a short form sort of content to add and bolster into the audio book as well. It's narrated by myself, if you can put up with my dull accent.
Sounds fantastic, man. Well, all I can say is, Staz, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. It's just been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you, mate.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for listening to. This has been episode 98. And if you'd like to listen to the past episodes, go and have a look at the channel. And if you'd like to listen in for the future ones too, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now, fights on, and see you next time. See you later.